welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Good morning everyone, welcome to another D3D4 Football Podcast. It is Sunday the 16th of February. It is hammering it down. Storm Dennis has wreaked havoc across the country, yet I think only a couple of matches were called off due to the weather, so that's a testament to groundsmen everywhere in League 1 and 2. Well done to everyone who managed to get these games on, and I have to say well done to all the fans who travelled yesterday. There are quite a lot of them. Sunderland fans in particular went all the way down to Oxford. There were 1,700 I think of them at the Kassam Stadium. They were rewarded with a win. We will be talking about all the results over the weekend. A few of the midweek ones as well we'll be touching upon. I'm joined by my co-hosts Ed and Chris again as we jump straight in this week to the League 1 action.
League 1.
And right guys, Coventry City, got to start there because they've not come from nowhere, but because they've been steadily building this season with result after result. 10 unbeaten now, 8 wins in that run. I think 1 defeat in 18, something like that. Ridiculous numbers behind this sudden rise to the automatic promotion places. But they are actually joint top on points with a game in hand. And Ed, Mark Robins, I've said it before, he's a bit of a genius, isn't he? Because what he's doing at Coventry deserves a lot more credit than perhaps he's getting.
He deserves so much more credit. I remember looking at the table, actually. I think they've lost 3 games all season. Which is, I think Rotherham lost 8, I think it is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Which really sums up how good this side is, that, you know, they're hardly ever beaten. They just grow out the results, and then, like you say, they're top of the league at the minute, still got that game in hand to go as well. And with the way they're playing and the form they're on, you've got to look at these guys and think we could see them definitely in the top 2, potentially even top.
Well, if they win that game in hand, then they, of course,
they will be top.
They will take over from Rotherham at the summit. You have to like a lot about this team. I was digging in some numbers. I think it was an Arsenal fan who made some sort of query about whether they're overperforming, which, got a bit of consternation from some Coventry supporters on Twitter, as you can imagine. However, I dug into the numbers a little bit because the XG numbers are not great. So the XG numbers 4, they were about the 7th worst in League 1 for XG. But they're creating about the 5th most chances, which suggests that they're creating a lot of chances that are not necessarily in good scoring positions, yet they're taking these opportunities. And the thing that really plays in their favour, because if you look at the last 4 games, which they have now won consecutively, they've scored no more than 2 in any of those matches. They've won 3 of them by just a single goal. But that defensive record that they have maintained means that they have got, I think, the 4th best XG against in the division. So defensively, this Coventry side are actually winning a lot of their battles, and yet they're able, with the players they've got, to just create the chances and take the opportunities enough to win these games. And I don't know if you think that's sustainable, Ed, over the course of the season. You'd argue perhaps that they'll need to make better opportunities consistently, but so far, I mean, we're 30 games in, and it's worked a treat for them.
It's looking quite good looking at the games coming up as well. They've got away to Rochdale next weekend. You've got home games against Rotherham and Sunderland, which could really test them. That trip to Ipswich as well. But the general run-in, considering the quality of the side they've got, I don't think it's too bad. So it's quite exciting times, I reckon.
Indeed it is. We'll have to keep a very close eye on the Sky Blues. I think from my perspective, I'm a lot older than both of you two, and they were a team that were always in the top flight. They had some great players. I don't know if either of you will remember. You've probably seen YouTube footage of Patron Love, but he was absolutely this fantastic, silky skilled player, Zimbabwean international. Wonderful guy. Obviously, I think Agrizovic, their goalkeeper coach, is still there. He might have left the club last season, actually. Coventry fans, you'll know better than me, but what a legend he is. Great goalkeeper from back in the day. And yet here they are working their way back up the league the hard way. And I'm hoping that, this season could be their year. We'll have to wait and see. Sunderland beat Oxford. Massive win for them, really. And one thing I will say about all the Sunderland fans, they supported their team wonderfully well throughout this match. It wasn't pretty because the weather didn't really allow it to be. And if you've been to Oxford, you know the wind that comes in from that open end is disgusting. It's outrageous. You get a right filthy wind flying in there. Oh, it is. It's just horrible. So whoever had the wind behind them was always going to have sort of the advantage in the half. And obviously Sunderland took their opportunity 2 minutes in. I saw the highlights on Quest. They said it was an own goal. I swear it wasn't an own goal watching.
I thought it went straight in.
I thought it was Jordan Willis, headed it. I didn't think it came off. Someone said it was from Senior. I don't know. We'll have to double check that.
No one can see.
It's academic, really. It doesn't really matter. It was the goal that won the game for Sunderland. And yeah, they keep this run going, Chris. And funnily enough, it's coming at the right time, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It is just what they needed. They're up to 5th now. It's not long ago that they were talking about wanting Parkinson out, and so looking at mid-table mediocrity, really. But they've come back. They're playing really good football now. We can talk about whether it's an own goal or not, but as you say, it was the winning goal, and they were strong yesterday. Not necessarily at their finest, but it was a good win.
13.
I mean, that's the big start into. It really is impressive stuff from them. I think the big thing to talk about in terms of negatives from them yesterday is Bailey Wright. I think he might be out for some time now. He's apparently done his ankle ligaments.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it was. It didn't at the time. It didn't look that bad. I think he went through the back of Marcus Brown and just fell awkwardly. It looks like from the challenge. He actually, I mean, the free kick went against him for that. But one thing I'll mention: Sunderland have conceded the least goals in League One, and you can see why. Luke O'Nine was superb. What a player! Absolutely superb. I mean, although the fact that he kept being called Tom Flanagan by the Oxford United Coventry team all the way through the game really annoyed me, but he is fantastic. And Sunderland have had clean sheet against Oxford, clean sheet against Rochdale, clean sheet against Ipswich, conceded a couple against Pompey, clean sheet against Tranmere, clean sheet against Doncaster, clean sheet against MK Dons, clean sheet against Wickham, conceded 1 against Lincoln, 1 at Fleetwood, 1 against Doncaster, clean sheet against Bolton, and 1 against Blackpool. This defence is formidable. I mean, this run they're on, it's absolutely ridiculous and fantastic defensive work. And if you have a good, like Parky's obviously built this defence, and then the sort of the attack came later, and he's now got this sort of base to build on, and they're doing fantastically with it. A couple of big home games coming up: Bristol Rovers and Fleetwood, and then the one that everyone will be looking forward to at the end of the month against Coventry at St Andrews.
Have you seen their last game of the season for Sunderland?
No, inform me.
Rotherham.
Oh, get out of the KFC. That's one that's finger licking good. That is, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You couldn't write it. This is why League One's so good. Whoever made that fixture, whatever fixture computer that is, that deserves a knighthood.
They knew what was coming when they picked that game.
They did. They did. They have better insight certainly than me. That's for sure. Wonderful stuff. So Sunderland, right up there now into the playoff mix. Yeah, you can clearly, 3 points behind Coventry, 3 points off the top of the table, and in great form and defensively looking ever so solid. Portsmouth as well, a team in form, 2-0 win against Shrewsbury. We'll talk about Shrewsbury in a minute, but we talked Portsmouth last week. We won't go over it all again. They lost to Coventry midweek. Okay, but most fans watching that game would say Portsmouth deserved something from the game, and I agree with them. They definitely did. But at the moment they're on this sort of run where you know they're going to be a playoff team. I think Portsmouth, they should be anyway. Yeah. But they've had a difficult start. They've got over it, and they broke the record. I think it was 9 consecutive wins. Obviously, that defeat to Coventry sort of brought it to a halt, bouncing straight back. Good second half performance yesterday, getting the victories and keeping them right in there. They've got 3 home games in the next 4 as well. Very strong at Fratton Park this season. Am I right in saying they've still not lost a game there, Ed?
They still haven't lost in Fratton Park, no, and that Coventry defeat is their only one in 2020 in any competition.
Yeah, I think they've only lost to Southampton in the Cup, I think it was the only one.
We don't talk about that.
No, but in 2020,
get very upset when you talk about losing.
Of course, since the turn of the year, they haven't lost, and they're still in the Cup as well, so they're going strong in everywhere this 2020 so far, so keep that up.
Has to be a tasty fixture as well against Arsenal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, it'd be good. I mean, I can only pray for the underdogs Arsenal in that one, to be quite honest. They're going to need a little bit of luck. But Portsmouth, big games coming up. I mean, you look at their fixture list, I'd say it's quite favourable. They'll do well to get a victory at Fleetwood. Not many people will go there and get a win. But they do have 3 home games against MK Dons, Rochdale and Doncaster before a trip to Peterborough. So that'll be another sort of tasty fixture. Wycombe back to winning ways. A very good result for them against Bolton. I think you look at that fixture and you'd expect them to win, given the form of Bolton in recent weeks. But it's not been an easy run for the Chairboys. We know that. It's kept them right in the hunt though for automatics. I mean, regardless of them dropping out of the top 2 and losing to Fleetwood, who were the first team to win at Adams Park this season, by the way, in midweek. You know, crazy stuff that when you think about it. But the fans will have bitten your hand off at the start of the season for such a campaign, and they're right in there. They remind me a little bit in terms of the plucky upstarts that you saw under Paul Hurst at Shrewsbury a couple of seasons ago. But let's not forget Salop, because they've been rubbish. Terrible, in fact. And there's a lot of chat going on about this vision that they're going to do a Brentford B team style thing. A lot of Shrewsbury fans asking how they're going to afford that. But let's ignore the off-field aspirations and just say you've got to win a game, boys. 10 now without a win in the league. And like Sunderland, who defend well and don't concede, Shrewsbury are very generous and don't score. Didn't score against Portsmouth, didn't score against Accrington, got 1 against MK Dons, didn't score against Rochdale, didn't score against Gillingham, did get a brace at Fleetwood, which is impressive. 1 against Lincoln, didn't score against Doncaster, 1 against Bolton and 1 against Rotherham. Their last win coming before Christmas in the league, and that was at Blackpool, and it was a 1-0 win. So they just don't inspire me with confidence. And I don't think it's necessarily, though, I'd get your take on this, boys. It's not their team. It's not their squad. You look at the squad, they've got Callum Lang, they've got Cummings, they got rid of Fajiri Okanabiri. I mean, how do you get rid of a naturally talented finisher like Fajiri Okanabiri when you've got a scoring record like I've just read out?
I don't get why that happened. I still don't get that move.
I don't get it either. It's
Manager's
bizarre.
an idiot. I mean, I'm being harsh, but I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever to get rid of a player who, from fans who watched him week in, week out, and the guys at Salopcast will tell you, probably the most natural finisher Shrewsbury have had for some time. They don't have big goal scoring strikers at Shrewsbury.
How are they not getting Callum Lang scoring?
He has been out with injury for a while, and it's.
He's been back for a while. I mean, I think
he has been back for a while.
The criticism of Shrewsbury from Shrewsbury fans is that they play so defensively.
Why sign Callum Lang then?
Well, I mean, you have to have a striker somewhere in the team, I suppose. He's such a talent. I mean, he can play wide right. He can come off. You know, he's really a number 10, I suppose. Naturally, he plays well with.
He's sort of an inside forward. I saw him as his best position.
Yeah, and yet I don't know. I think in the games I've seen Shrewsbury play this season, they have been dire. The Gillingham one was particularly bad. The Doncaster one was probably worse, actually, which is saying something. And then this week they've lost 2-0 at home to Accrington and 2-0 away to Portsmouth, which in itself is not unsurprising, but they're not
the nature of the losses.
Yeah, it's the insipid kind of.
They're playing defensively, and they don't. I don't know. They don't look motivated to me.
Well, the manager's come out and said to the fans, just what you want when you're on a bad run is, well, we are where we should be,
Well, maybe, but that's not an excuse for not people. I don't think fans generally mind being mid-table, lower mid-table in a league when they're playing at the best of their abilities, and it doesn't look like they are playing at the best of their abilities. That's got to be where the problem is. Indeed.
It's not been good enough in terms of performances. But just sitting 4 points above them are Accrington in the table. Now, Accrington fans can't at all complain that they play defensive football because, in fact, in the numbers that we put out quite regularly, they create some of the highest number of chances in the division. Their XG is excellent. They've struggled, let's be honest, at times to take those opportunities. But this last run of games, 3 now on the bounce they've won. Very important to keep them going and keep them away from that relegation zone. I don't think anyone who watched Accrington seriously thought they would be in trouble relegation-wise, because they play too good a football, and they do have enough talent to steer clear of it. But they haven't always been able to convert those opportunities and those chances into victories. They're starting to do that a bit more now, 3 in a row following a poor run of 5 games without a win. But 4-3 game, Ed, against Lincoln, fantastic advert for football. That was played in some of the worst conditions as well. Ridiculous.
Absolutely terrible conditions. And, talking about the game, 3 times, I think it was, Lincoln took the lead, and 3 times Accrington pull it back, and then go and win it in the 95th minute. And, they've been this strong on the thought. They've been without Sean McConville for a while, who is one of my favourite players in this division. I think he's really underrated in general. He's a fantastic player, but then you've got the likes of Jordan Clark, Seamus Keneally, Joe Pritchard, who scored a fantastic goal to make it 2-2, I think it was.
One player I will shout out here is Sam Finney. I think he has been such a good player this season. And the only criticism I think many will have of him is he doesn't get enough goals. He has this ability. I think he has more ball recoveries in the opposition half than any other player at this level. His energy is amazing. He can get the ball. He can pass it. He's got great vision. But for Sam Finley, you look at him, you say, you need to score more, mate. And he got the injury time winner, 95th minute, I think, yesterday.
Yeah, 10 minutes added on.
Yeah, crazy. But, absolutely deserved for a player who I think has got a big future ahead of him. I don't know how old he is. He's not that young.
He's 27.
Yeah, so, he deserves a big move, I think, at some point. He's certainly one of those ones that Accrington bring in, improve, and then sell on. He's that kind of player, isn't he? And he's certainly made a huge stride in his game since joining them. But fantastic stuff, and Accrington fans, give us your feedback, because although it's not been a season where you're challenging at the top, you've certainly had some entertaining football to watch. And the numbers back that up, I think, and now on a good run. Gillingham, 13 unbeaten. And they're now above Oxford, who have crashed down in recent weeks. But impressive.
Sounds like selling your best players has done you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's rare that selling the best talent in a team trashes a season, isn't it?
It's mental.
Anyway, I don't want to ruin my Sunday. Anyway, so Gillingham, let's talk about something a bit more positive. They've done really well. They're on this great run. But Chris, this is something we're not big fans of Steve Evans prior to him joining Gillingham. And I'm not going to say I'm suddenly his biggest fan, but you can't deny that what he's done here with this team is pretty impressive. Gillingham they've been perennial strugglers for the last few campaigns, certainly since we started doing D3D4. So yeah, this is very promising, and if they can keep this up, they will be one of those maybe. Yeah, they're just sneaking up there now. They're one of those 4 teams looking at the playoffs and hoping.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at some of their wins in recent weeks. You're looking at Doncaster and Blackpool. All right, Blackpool have dropped off in recent weeks, but it's not long ago that we were talking about them towards the playoffs. And yeah, we're not fans of Steve Evans, but I don't think that's down to his ability as a manager. He does get results at a lot of clubs that he goes to, and he's proving that with Gillingham very well. And you're looking at them now, can they just sneak that playoff spot? I think they could with a decent run now, especially looking at their form.
I personally don't think they'll make the playoffs. I just think, I look at the teams in there at the minute, and you've got Ipswich and Fleetwood outside of it. I just think, as good as Gillingham's... Well, they're on a great run, but I think everyone else is as well. That's the thing. Peterborough, who lost to Fleetwood, giving Fleetwood that extra win. You look at them; they've got a game in hand as well. I don't think Doncaster will make it either. To be honest, I think that top 8, it's going to be obviously 4 from that lot, and I don't think anyone will break into it. I think Oxford and Burton have gone now. To be honest, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What I would say about Gillingham, looking at their running, quite a lot of their games are against sides lower down than them.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot. They've got players like Accrington, they've got Southend, Lincoln, Wimbledon.
I think they're outsiders.
Well, they've got to play Wycombe, Coventry, Rotherham, Fleetwood, and Sunderland. Those are the 5 games that I look at and think, well, they'll be defining for them.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, if you're in a run against teams who are also in a good run, you've got to take points off them. And do they have the quality to do it? I think they do. I think January was probably very impactful as it goes, because January is really quite a difficult month. Not many players do well in the second half of the season after joining a new club. Jamie Murphy, probably the exception I've seen in League One so far, done really well for Burton, but still not quite good enough to get the results. And Gillingham probably should have beaten Burton. The number of chances they missed in that game in midweek as well. They really had some sitters which should have gone over the line, but they just couldn't quite do it. So that's probably, for me, how I see that going. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about Fleetwood. Ipswich, though, Ed, they beat your boys 4-1. Yes, sorry to bring it up. I mean, but what do you think? I mean, Paul Lambert, he's got a good squad of players. Is he going to be able to get this lot in the playoffs? They play 2 more games than Portsmouth ahead of them. But feasibly, Peterborough, they'd be level on points with Peterborough if they win their game in hand on them.
It's a difficult one with Ipswich, isn't it? What I will say is, well done to them. It was a deserved result. The quality of the goals we conceded was appalling. Really was. I remember particularly the second one where I think it's Thomas Holly who's just punted it up field and it's gone over the whole defence and it's been knocked in for 2-1. And then, we lost Kieran O'Hara as well. Not ideal. I do like Ben Garrett. I think he'll become the future number 1, but it's going to take a bit of time getting used to him.
Yeah,
but
he didn't cover himself in glory at times, did he?
No, he didn't, especially with that 4th goal, definitely. Yeah. And it's a great win for Ipswich, and it's needed time. I think it's their first win in. Is it 6? Is it 5 or 6 now?
5, I think.
Yeah, first one.
5 games. It's a must. It's a needed win. Get them back on it, and I think they've got Oxford next, isn't it? Another home one. I think they've got quite a lot. They've got a lot of home games coming up at the end of the season. So if they can get a home run together, that's going to strengthen things a lot for them.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced that necessarily that they're consistent enough, and I think other teams are more consistent. But we'll have to wait and see, because they've definitely got, in terms of the squad, the talent. But I don't know. Fleetwood are a team that we know have got a good, ruthless group of players, good strikers, good depth throughout, good experience, and they've only lost like 1 in 12 games or something like that. Ridiculous, but. The most important thing about it is they've converted those draws into victories now, 4 victories in a row. And 3 of their next 4 games are against sides in the playoff positions or just outside. So you've got them playing Portsmouth next week, then Sunderland away on the Tuesday, I think the week after. And then they've got this away trip to both Tranmere and Ipswich. So Fleetwood Town boys, we could see them emerge as a playoff contender. I
think they're one of those teams that maybe don't always pick up the result, but you always have to be at your best to get past them.
Yeah,
I think it's the best way you could describe Fleetwood. You can't have an off day against Fleetwood because you will get beaten.
No, exactly, and they're very good at home. I haven't looked at the home table, but I would imagine they're right up there. I think they're in the top 5 or 6 for home form. 33 points, that's it. 33 points from 16 games.
They're 6th in the home table at the minute. Same number of points as Sunderland.
Yeah, very impressive. So they're good at home. Not too bad away either, actually, to be fair. But at home, that little ground and that awful pug wash music they play on these scorecards.
I do love that. I do love going to Fleetwood away though.
Yeah, there should be rules against the kind of stuff. Like goal music should be banned in general, I think. But sea chanty goal music should be condemned to the 7th levels of hell. It is that bad.
I don't mind it, apart from when
your ears must have some sort of ability
it's
to tolerate.
The last time I went to Fleetwood was awful weather, like worse than what we're having now, and you concede a very shoddy goal, and then you've got to listen to that sea shanty go on for a minute when the freezing cold. It's not the best thing, is it?
It's really never warm at Fleetwood, though, is it?
No, it's never warm at Fleetwood.
No, it's not. Ban that. We should get. I think I might start a Twitter campaign to ban that. I think there's a certain things you should tolerate in football, but discrimination and sea chanty goal music are two things that.
On the same level, are they?
I think if you start doing that, Jez, they'll make it their walkout music instead, just to wind you up even more.
That's what I'd love to see them sort of like dancing out to that.
That is something I would not like to see. Definitely not like to see.
It's like when New Zealand do like the haka in the rugby.
Oh, you can't compare that to the haka.
People in New Zealand will be writing into this podcast, so we've got to be careful. Something's tradition. Yeah, okay, let's move on before we get too obsessed and weird with this. But Blackpool sacked their manager, guys. Simon Grayson gone. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to think that there's any complaints about this, Ed, because surely you've got to think with the Blackpool squad available, they should be doing better.
I did think it was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. I know they're a long way off where some fans would like them to be, but it's not like they're having a terrible season. It's not like
terrible run, though.
Bad run, yeah, but they're not in, I don't have any relegation concerns or anything like that. My guess is this possibly maybe a deal to get someone in ready for the next campaign, could you say?
I think they just looked at the money they'd spent and the players he had available. How many signings did they make in January? Like 11?
They made a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot of signings, wasn't there?
And they're still pants, to be honest. Like they weren't doing it. And I think the owners probably thought, let's cut our losses now and have the end of this season to sort of maybe someone to have a look at the squad and then decide over the summer. The problem is if you leave it too late and then you get rid of the manager near the end of the season, you've got that void, don't you, to try and fill. And yeah, it doesn't leave you looking very strong for the next campaign. So maybe that's their decision. I think he should have been doing better personally with the squad available. Where he goes from here is interesting because, of course, his last few managerial stints have not been particularly good. Sunderland, Bradford, and now Blackpool all dismissing him. So interesting to see where Simon Grayson surfaces.
Talking about
next.
Bristol Rovers, can we give a mention to Alkide Kilgore's goal?
That was a very good goal, and it also
very good.
First one for Ben Gardner as well in the league.
Yes, much needed that, isn't it? Certainly.
Absolutely much needed. Yeah, I mean when you go for a manager who's not particularly well known, getting off to a bad start is not what you want. So good to see him. Good to see him manage to get himself 3 points. Bristol Rovers have had a season of two halves almost. Great first half of the season. Lost their manager to Mansfield, and it's just all fallen apart after that win against Ipswich. So yes, reboot and rebuild for them this summer. Rotherham and AFC Wimbledon. Great point from AFC Wimbledon this, Chris. I mean, when you're a team, still having to fight because obviously Tranmere win their game in hand, they'll be only 4 points behind AFC Wimbledon. You go to Rotherham and get that. That's an absolute, that's a really good morale lifting point, surely.
I enjoyed this one. I mean, it seems like they were second best, but they kept on fighting. They kept on, they managed to grind it out in the end. I really enjoyed seeing that equaliser go in. Yeah,
I'm a fan of Glyn Hodges. I think he's done well. Appiah scoring, of course, 93rd minute penalty, and that sort of spirit, because they went behind with 9 minutes to go against the team top of the table, who've been very, very good recently, and you think game over, but no. They held on, came back, got a leveller. Point like that could be so important at the end of the season. I don't think it will be. I think I'm not sure I have much faith in Tranmere to climb their way out of trouble. They're just not doing it. I mean, there's a lot of teams struggling. I know, like we said a couple of weeks ago, this bottom three are likely to be the bottom three that go down.
They're just so impressively bad.
Well, no, Southend are impressively bad. Tranmere not far behind, it has to be said. I mean, we forget Bolton are bottom and they're going down, no doubt. But they've actually won more games than Southend.
Yeah, I mean, it was a 12-point deduction, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, so you're putting them on the same level as Tranmere.
That's it, yeah.
They have still got 2 games in hand on Southend as well, so...
Oh, dear.
I reckon
if you finish bottom and you're overtaken by a team who had minus 12 points and started the campaign with a youth team, not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. Tumbleweed time. Poor Southend. I did like, I might have mentioned it last week, but the transfer deadline day tweet from Chris Phillips of the Southend Echo, who said, it's transfer deadline day, or as we call it in Southend, Friday.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite good. Right, anyway, let's have a look at the league table. Rotherham top, level on points with the superb rising storm that is Coventry. Absolutely brilliant stuff. They've got a game in hand as well. Wickham, Peterborough, Sunderland and Portsmouth in those playoff places, with Ipswich and Fleetwood just outside. Doncaster and Gillingham 48 and 46 points. feasibly still the only two teams that could make a late charge. I think Oxford's season, I might be wrong, but we've got to go to Ipswich, and that's going to be a tricky one as well. It looks like our season is spent now. It's a big ask to get those points back against teams who are flying. But again, not going to be too disappointed with the season we've had. Burton, mid-table as well. Bristol Rovers now in the bottom half of the table. That a much needed win there. At the bottom, Bolton, Southend, Tranmere remain staunchly bad and in those bottom three places. Though, of course, if Tranmere do win that game in hand, they could close the 7-point gap to just 4. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let us jump down into League 2 now.
League 2.
Nowhere better to start than Vale Park. I watched their game against Forest Green in midweek, and Forest Green, okay, not doing that well, but still an excellent footballing side. They were 3-0 up in this game. They were very generous, getting 2 players sent off and allowing them, 2 goals back. A debatable penalty.
Sporting. Very sporting.
Very sporting, just to make the fans have something to cheer on at the end. But Port Vale was superb. And they've gone against Colchester, a side who we know how good they can be. Yeah, they've had a couple of blips recently, and unfortunately against teams that they probably would be expecting to do better against, certainly. And Port Vale come out of this one absolutely flying. And Cullen, who came in for the suspended Tom Pope, just shows that they've got some really good depth there. And they've gone about this quite quietly, Port Vale. Don't know what you think of it. I'll start with you, Chris, because this was a season meant to be really, let's just consolidate after the Smurthwaite era. And they're being rewarded with something a little bit better than that.
Yeah, that's absolutely going to be my point. You didn't expect much from them. They had a very difficult few years under their former owner, and now this season it all just seems to have gone right. They've got a new set of owners in that seem to be pretty transparent. They're trying to build something sustainable, which is
signing young players to new contracts. Yeah. I think was it Evans or Burgess? One of the two signed an extension in midweek. Worrell, of course, has been their star this season. He signed a new 2-year deal with the club, and he was superb against Forest Green.
They're building nicely. They're doing things the way that we talk so often, say how they should be done. And they're sitting 6th in the league after they're unbeaten in 5 now. Their last loss against Swindon, so you can't really complain too much about that.
I think they've only had 2 defeats in something like 13, and they've taken 13 points from the last 15 available to push themselves into those playoff places.
Yeah, they look so difficult to beat at the moment.
They work so hard as well. It's like you look at their team, and they haven't spent big money. They haven't done it like that. They've got a good group of young players supported by an experienced spine. If you look at the spine of that team, you have got Scott Brown in goal. You've got Leon Legg, and to be fair, Nate Smith is not inexperienced for his age. He's a great player. You've got Luke Joyce, and then you've got Tom Pope, and you've got this spine there of experienced heads who, in a dressing room, Luke Joyce does not get the credit he deserves. Against Forest Green, he ran that midfield. He got the ball in deep. He always wanted it. He kept the ball, kept possession, tackled back, and it was very unfortunate to give away a penalty. It was debatable, that one, but 3 wins on the bounce now, 4 wins in 5, and sitting pretty in the playoffs. And they've got to go to Walsall, Scunthorpe, the big games like going to Cheltenham. That they'll be tricky. It's not an easy division, but all you can do is beat what's in front of you, and they've done that superbly well over the last few weeks. So really enjoying that. John Askey vindicated as a good appointment, because he was kind of hounded out at Shrewsbury. And yet he's come here and he's done a superb job of turning the team around, and he's built something with the help of some excellent owners. So credit to him there. Quick chat, Ed, about Mr. Bonner at Cambridge. Still unbelievably 100% record since taking charge.
There was a great quote from him from his pre-match interview in the build-up to this game, where he said, "Winning runs don't go on forever, but they can go on for longer." And I love that quote, and it's so fitting that he's then come back. His subs have made the impact again, and he's turned it around to beat Bradford. And you kind of wish it was earlier in the season because they've just become a completely new team under him. There's so much confidence in this team. They don't know when they're beaten. There's real fight in this side, and it's a shame that we're in February and not in, say, October, because you'd be looking at this team and thinking they are in with a shout at the top 7 on the form they're on.
Yeah, there's a great run of form, and it's just good because the fans were really disgruntled under Calderwood. There was a feeling of the club is stagnating and not really going anywhere, but and a young coach giving them some passion. They've got a good group of young players there, not without talent. People like George Maris still there. Sam Smith out for long term now with glanophasia, but he's come on well since joining.
But they brought in Paul Mullen, who I think is an excellent addition in Smith's absence. Well, and you've got Adebayo and Harvey Nibbs, who's making an impact on the bench as well. And people have been waxing lyrical about Leon Davis and his crossing recently.
He started the season at right back, didn't he?
Yeah, he's more of a right back, but he's coming in sort of the right side of midfield, and he's really flourishing at the moment in this team.
Good supply of service. So really good to see that, and interesting to see if he does. I mean, they're talking about this chap who, again, I keep forgetting his name, but he's the Brighton under-23 coach. Keeps being linked with the job, but I think you've got to give it a little bit more time, because if they're
edging towards Bonner right now, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, but caretakers, it's always difficult, isn't it? They always have a good run and then become manager and it all goes pear-shaped. But don't know. He's doing a great job. That's all you can say at the moment. Exeter City, come on, guys. Do
we have to?
Yeah, well, actually, to be fair, Oldham went there in midweek and were more than their match for most of that first half until the red card. Game changed and they were just ruthless. 5-1 win. Yesterday, Macclesfield did a Macclesfield and made it very hard for them, but they showed that they progressed since last season, where they lost 3-2 there. I remember watching that game, and they come back and they win 3-2, and hold on this time against a very determined Silkman. So that puts them in a really, really strong position. You have to say Exeter are probably, I don't know, they don't thrash teams in the same way. I mean, okay, they thrash Oldham. But
thanks.
Mitigating circumstances slightly in that one. But they tend to be a side that win by grafting and the odd goal.
Yeah, they're good at grinding out a result.
But they're doing really well at doing it. I mean, they're level on points with Swindon, obviously. Now, Swindon's goal difference, I think, is far superior. Something like
7 better.
7 better. It's not. I don't know. Do we think this is an Exeter side that challenges for the title? I mean, I know getting in the top 3 at the moment would be the aim, because it's a 4-way battle now, really, isn't it, for that top 3?
I still think Swindon will do it.
You think Swindon will win it?
Yeah,
I don't. To be honest with you, with lower league football, I don't think there's any real difference coming first, second, or third in League 2. At the end of the day, what you aim for is promotion. If you get a league title at the end of it, it's a bonus.
Is there any financial benefit?
I'm not sure. There might be a little one.
There will be a slight bit in the prize money, won't there?
You think so? Is it?
It'll be negligible, I would imagine.
I think ultimately, if Exeter end up second or third, I don't think they'll complain one bit.
No, I think you might be right.
Plymouth, though, beat Crewe. Chris Porter. I don't like taking the mick out of anyone.
I like taking the mick out of Chris Porter. So.
Oh, my words.
It was pretty bad, wasn't it? I mean,
it was impressive.
If Ant Evans and Tim Robinson are listening to this, has a Crewe player ever missed such a sitter before? Go on, let us know on Twitter, because that's dreadful.
The worst bit is it's their number 9. It's not like it's a centre-back who's come forward for a corner. It's their number 9. He's got number 9 on his back. He's missed that kind of opportunity.
It was also as well the way he it was a bit lackadaisical, wasn't it? The way he hit it. It's like, oh yes, here
real
I am.
In it.
I've scored. Oh crap.
Oh crap indeed. And I'd love to have got close up with the fans behind the goal. Their faces must have been, oh my god.
That's something I quite like doing. I quite like when you see replays of shots, you like looking out at the fans in the background, and there's a mixture of them. Some of them are turned away in absolute disbelief. Others got hands on their heads.
Some look like they're about to throw up.
Some are still celebrating because they don't realise it's gone wide yet.
They're the best.
Oh my goodness, it was terrible, and it ended up costing them, unfortunately, a very important, very important point. As it turned out, they could have salvage something. They were unlucky at the end. Not Perry and G. It was Harry Pickering who hit the crossbar at the stanchion at the end,
and
also
they should have had a penalty.
Oh, yeah, and was that a penalty? I mean, it's very hard to see from
all day long. That was a penalty.
No, well, I agree with you on the one. Yeah, Crew should have had a penalty, but was the one that was given against them a penalty?
The angle's horrible to tell. It's not a good angle. There's a load of bodies in the way when you see the.
Yeah.
Is it NG who goes in on? I think it might be Danny Mayer. Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it definitely.
I think maybe it was, but that one's harder to tell. But how Crew didn't have a penalty? Daylight robbery.
It was blatant penalty, wasn't it?
About as blatant as it gets.
Yeah, pretty poor from the ref in that one, and I don't know. I feel for Crew because I mean the fans were brilliant. They made that long trip, gave the team all the support they could, and in the end, they're now only a point ahead of Argyle, who have a game in hand. So how important that will be come the end of the season, who knows? But certainly in the context of the game, you don't like to see decisions become important factors. Whether or not Chris Porter's miss is remembered at the end of the season as something that was defining.
What it means now, though, Plymouth have got to go to Macclesfield on Tuesday, and if they win that, first, second, and third are all going to have 63 points with 33 games played.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it?
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
It's no given though. The Silkmen are.
It's certainly not given.
notorious.
Certainly not given. That is going to be a really hard game to win because Macclesfield do not get beaten at home easily. They do not.
That'll be a sitting at home watching on iFollow for me, I think.
Absolutely.
Should be a good match. Should be. Well, it probably won't be a good match in the terms of the pitch will be terrible, but whether or not they can grind out. You just want, if you go to Moss Rose this season and get 3 points, you've done well.
Agreed.
Agreed. So we shall keep a close eye on that one. But yeah, comeback of the day goes to Walsall, 2-0 down, and real spirit to come back and beat Northampton, who are, what do you reckon, guys, on a bit of a wobble?
They are on a bit of a wobble, to be honest. You've got to look at it a little bit. 3 defeats in a row. It's difficult. I think one of the problems people have got is they employ quite a direct style. They're a very strong physical team with a really good core, but when you play that way, you become quite predictable. And I think particularly we know the threat they provide from set pieces, but if you're well set up to deal with that, you kind of cancel out their threat in a way. And I think recently, Verdane Oliver's been a big impact up top, and he hasn't quite hit that level he's been at in the last few weeks. And that's coinciding as well with this run of form this run of bad form that Northampton are on.
Not great for them, not great for Keith Curl, but wonderful turnaround for Walsall. We won't dwell on this game too much because I think for Walsall, they will finish mid-table. It doesn't. I'm not convinced they will have a late tilt at the playoffs at all. I think that would be something they're build for next season if they can get a bit more balance in this team. They're not that bad at all. So Grimsby beat Morecambe 2-1. Good to see Grimsby finding their winning form. Did anyone see Vernon's goal midweek?
No,
yes.
I did.
Which one?
Well, I mean, he scored 3, didn't he? Yeah, but it was the one where he literally ran the length of the pitch.
Superb.
It was. Go and look it up.
I will do.
Apart from, there's a bit of debate. I think Colchester fans will tell you, why has no one actually tried to get on him? I think the tackles are a bit poor on him. But you allow him to run that distance.
You've got to give him credit.
You've got to give him credit for the run, absolutely. So
it was
fantastic.
A great goal. And it's good to see him finding some form because, he hasn't been anywhere near this kind of player since he's been at Grimsby. So it's good to see someone suddenly showing the sort of potential that everyone thought he might have, and he's certainly done that in the recent games. And it could be, it won't be important in terms of the context of the season. Grimsby going nowhere at all, but wanting to build something under Ian Holloway, and he's brought the feel-good factor back. The Grimsby fans are enjoying watching their team again, and that's the most important thing. Bradford beat Stevenage, and then to lose to Cambridge. Again, looks like they're going to struggle, I think, to make a big impact. Cheltenham, massive back-to-back wins for them. Going to Carlisle, getting that 1-0 win in awful conditions. Then to beat Leyton Orient with a really late goal. Huge for them. And they've got some, I think, 8 home games remaining this season. So that will be what really pushes them towards a playoff spot. I mean, they've got great depth now as well. They've signed some good players. I think Tom Nichols and Alfie May. Alfie May has scored in 4 consecutive home games for Cheltenham. I think I'm pretty right in saying that is a record for a player at the Robins. I don't think any player has scored in his first 4 home games for Cheltenham in the club's history.
Did Luke Varney not? Because he had quite an impact when he arrived.
He didn't score in 4 consecutive home games. No way.
No, okay. That's a good stat, that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I like that.
I don't think... I'm not a Cheltenham historian, but if you are a Cheltenham historian and you're listening to this, I'd like to know if anyone has achieved that, because I know Alfie May has been excellent, and I don't know, has he scored in like 5, 6 and 8 games or something? But I know for a fact that he scored in his first 4 home league games, so don't think that's ever been done before. Amazing stuff.
He's got 5 in 8 matches.
That's right, yeah, and that's right.
That's a very good return.
Yeah, very good return. He's been excellent. He's been absolutely excellent. So well done to him. And Ruben Reid's fitness, he's an impact player now, which is all you can ask him to be.
I never thought I'd be seeing the day where we're thinking of Ruben Reid as getting a bit of fitness up.
Well, he's really struggled, hasn't he? I mean, he's been in and out of this Cheltenham side all season. He's had hamstring problems. He missed the start of the campaign. So it's just to have him on the pitch, I think, is a bonus. And they've got great depth in forward positions now. So Cheltenham flying, and be interesting to watch them as the season comes to an end. Carlisle, they drew 0-0 at Crawley. Crawley keep this good run going. They were unlucky against Crewe in midweek, but they've certainly been far more solid under John Yem. Something to build for them. Stevenage carry on being Stevenage. A 1-0 defeat at home, not able to score goals. They're going down, aren't they? Let's be honest.
They've got a little Twitter campaign from their fans at the moment, haven't they, to, complaining about the way the club's run, I think.
Well, yes, I can see. I mean, this season has been... It's just so bad, isn't it? It's just so bad. Lack of goals, lack of victories, lots of players coming in, lots of recruitment, but nothing that you'd say blows your mind. It's been pretty difficult campaign for them all round. And I think the campaign, is it Stevenage for league football?
Stevenage league football. They're basically going back through the memories of the time supporting the club and basically saying how proud they are. And they should be proud to support that club, but I've got to be honest, I can't see them staying up.
I can't.
I really can't.
Morecambe, I thought, were really bad, and they're 8 points adrift of them.
But their new signings have made a telling impact on them.
That is very true, but 8 points.
Yeah, it's a pretty big gap, and I think the only saving grace will be what happens to Macclesfield. If Macclesfield can have no more point deductions or anything like that, that'll be...
It also gets interesting if Oldham have point deductions as well.
Yeah, there's also potentially that if they go into administration. All really sad though, isn't it? That could be this sort of thing that defines a season of football at this level, rather than just a team being better than another team on the pitch. Shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
But there we go. One team that I was really surprised that Mansfield's game against Newport went ahead, and not because of the weather, but because Newport literally have got hardly a team left with all the injuries they picked up.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. I put out a tweet. I think it was something like 9 players missing. One of those illegible because obviously Otis Khan on loan from Mansfield, but the rest are all
and no
all
backup
injured.
keeper.
Yeah, they've got no youth keeper either. So they literally
sign me up.
Yeah, exactly.
After my performance midweek, saved a penalty.
There you go. Well, we'll send you down to Mike Flynn, and he'll give you a contract for sure, because they're desperate. I mean, they really are in trouble with injuries, and it's probably a credit to them. They only lost 1-0 against the Mansfield team that have been abject at best this season. Don't know what's going to happen at Mansfield over the summer. I think there'll be a complete turnover of playing staff. I think Graham
I agree with that. I agree.
He'll rip it up. They've got a huge wage budget, and they're just not being good enough. But
that's the incredible thing. I mean, they must have. Is it possibly the biggest wage budget in the league?
No, I'd imagine Salford probably have more.
So yeah, Salford.
It's definitely one of the biggest.
Well, Salford's probably is bigger after January, but I wouldn't have thought Salford's was anywhere near Mansfield's going into the start of the season.
Probably not, no. But I don't get how Salford aren't coming under financial fair play rules.
Probably because the owners are giving it as just free loans, like not loans, just giving.
It's directors' loans. It's going in as.
I don't know. It's weird. They're getting rid of players. I mean, what I think Salford have been doing is they've obviously gone up, thanks to all the players that got them there, got rid of them sharpish and tried to sign another load of players. I don't like that very much.
Well, they had a good team. I mean, the team they had that they got promoted with last season was good enough to play at a good level in League Two.
Yeah. Well,
So
they got rid of Hogan left this week, didn't he? He went to Stockport on a 2.5-year deal.
What a signing for Stockport that is.
Yeah, Danny Lloyd on loan there as well at the minute.
I mean, Stockport, I could see them coming up. That would be interesting.
I think Sam Walker's down there as well, up there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
New owners.
Yeah, exactly. So a bit of hope for seeing I mean, I watched Stockport in the Championship.
I watched them at Wembley get promoted to League One.
Yeah, they had some great players. Kevin Francis, anyone remember him? He's a policeman now in Canada, but
I've got one of my dad's DVDs of him. I'll put a video.
Great player he was. Not so great when he came to Oxford. His knees had gone by then, but yeah, very, very good player in his time at Stockport County. Brett Angel. Nash was their keeper who played Premier League football.
I remember Anthony Pilkington and Liam Dickinson at Wembley.
Yeah, Dickinson, of course. Big striker.
Yeah,
they had a good
really
team.
Good.
Really good team. So good to see Stockport finally on the way back. Crazy that they went as far down as they did, but it's cyclical. They'll be back. They'll definitely be back. They've still got the fans, haven't they? So
they get silly crowds there, 5,000 quite often.
yeah, so that's huge. That's amazing, and they'll be coming back, no doubt about it. But they've got a good squad. But anyway, Mansfield haven't. That's the point. Well, they have on paper, but it's not performed at all. I think we're talking about budgets. Scunthorpe's is the second biggest, wasn't it? According to their chairman. Apparently, he told BBC Radio Humberside they're spending $3 million a year on wages.
Does that make it the biggest?
I think he said it was the second biggest. I think that's what he said.
And who are they spending that on? Why is it?
I would imagine you've got some players on decent wages there. Van Veen, McCardle.
I think Novak will have cut a bit of that off now he's gone to Bradford.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've had to get rid of quite a few, I think. Well, that will be the aim. They'll see a lot more departures, I think, this summer and try and build with a younger squad. Russ Wilcox, obviously, there until the end of the season. Remains to be seen what they do long term. But anyhow, whatever happens, I mean, Chris, you final word this week. Oldham 1-1 draw with Forest Green. At least it was an improvement on Tuesday night. I was pleased that Dino decided to drop Zeus, because I have to say, out of goalkeeping performances in a single 90 minutes, I'm not sure I've ever seen a worse performance than Zeus against Exeter.
He was at fault on all 5 goals. I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, I can't. I mean, yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember a goalkeeper making 5 mistakes. I mean, they weren't necessarily blatant, but they were all.
I mean, 3 of them were blatant, and the other 2 he should have done better on.
Yeah, I mean, the penalty pushed the ball straight into their player, who then just smashed it against. In fact, David,
get him in there. That was a quality
what a save that was.
Really
good save as well.
But and then yesterday, it's just disappointing that we were second best for most of the game. We took the lead, thanks to some questionable goalkeeping from Thomas, and then decided to sit back again, which we're doing too much this season. We're inviting pressure on us, and once again, it's a late goal that's cost us points because we're not expressive enough. It looks like we're going out, trying to, with damage limitation. I don't see the point in that. One, it's not working, and excluding a potential administration event, we're not going to go down.
Yeah, it's kind of like go for it, just go for it. Like,
I mean,
absolutely no point is there in worrying about.
Even if you're trying to avoid going down, even if you take 12 points of us, we're not getting points this way, so something needs to change.
Indeed.
Can I just say, though, from a Forest Green perspective, I love that George Williams got the goal. Because if you think back to the first game of the season, less than 5 minutes in, he breaks his leg in the reverse game at Forest Green. And then he's come back in the last few weeks, looking like he's going to prove himself again, and he gets a pretty decent goal, I think, to take a point from Boundary Park, and I think that's a lovely story for him.
I think
you could see what it meant to him, couldn't you, when he scored that?
Oh, yeah. And Forest Green, actually, yesterday, they've been struggling of late, and they certainly weren't at their finest, but at times their passing was really good to watch. They're a really good footballing side at times.
Let's see how they are doing in the League Two table, because Swindon obviously is game cancelled. Again, Swindon, seriously, why cancel it with an hour to go when Scunthorpe fans have made that trip? I won't rant, but honestly, not good enough. They're top on goal difference, Exeter second, Crewe third. Plymouth, if they win that game in hand, like Ed suggested, will be on level points with Swindon and Exeter. That'd be amazing. But at the moment, they are fourth, Cheltenham fifth, Port Vale sixth, Colchester seventh, with Northampton and Bradford outside. Forest Green down to 10th as it stands. Salford up to 11th, but a fair way back in terms of points. Stevenage bottom, 22 points from 34 games, 8 points adrift of Morecambe. Carlisle a further 5 points ahead of them on the same points total as Macclesfield and Mansfield, of all teams. Right, guys, thank you for listening to this podcast. If you could please give it a share on Twitter, it would always be appreciated. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Chris, thanks for joining.
Absolute pleasure.
And Ed, as well, you've been a great addition to this podcast. I'm hoping you're enjoying it.
Oh, I'm loving it. Thanks a lot for having me.
No, more than welcome, more than welcome. I always have knowledgeable people on here, and it's great to have, 3 voices on the pod now. I think it works quite well.
Yeah.
Feedback, of course, always welcome from our listeners, so feel free to at us on Twitter at D3D4 Football. But until next week, guys, it's goodbye from us.